Hey there, it is the last weekend in December. It's Friday. I have the day off because I work for the government or a government. So I'm gonna start a reading vlog. I have a lot of cleaning up from Christmas I want to do. Like, let's look at this nice pile of presents that have been sitting on our kitchen table since Christmas. And I just want to get that all cleaned up, put away, figure out a spot for everything. I've got some empty shelves back there. I want to get things cleaned. And so I'm going to find an audiobook. I'm going to finish up watching the video I was watching. I just had breakfast. My eye had like an allergic reaction to the makeup I wore last night. So I've got to go look at that and see if it was like the makeup or if there was something on my brush. Just the one eye, just the one. Put hydrocortisone cream on it. I've taken an allergy pill, and so it looks way better than it did this morning. But man, hooray for having eczema and allergies. So anyway, I am going to find an audiobook to listen to while I do my cleaning. I have a Silver Under Nightfall to finish. I read a lot last night compared to how much I've been reading. And so I only have like 85 pages left. So I'm going to knock those out today. So I got some errands I want to run. Me and the doggo, wherever he went. Oh, there he is. He's on the couch. There's presents over there too, see? We are going to go for a walk. So it's going to be an audiobook and finishing Silver Under Nightfall day. And then, okay, when I finish Silver Under Nightfall, I kind of want to start Jen Arcuary early and do a Court of Wanderers. So that's the plan for this vlog. So it is Friday, December 29th, and we're going to kick off the new year with some reading. So I'll be checking in with you when I figure out what audiobook I'm going to read, and get some cleaning done. And maybe I'll be brave enough to do some before and afters. We'll see. Probably not. I think I'm going to read a Rin Chupeco since I'm already reading a Rin Chupeco. So I'm going to do The Sacrifice, which is a horror. Dog's leaving. So I'm going to take him on a walk because he's been whining, and we're going to start Rin Chupeco's The Sacrifice. Okay, so I'm about an hour in to The Sacrifice by Rin Chupeco, and essentially we have a haunted island in the Philippines, and we have a local tour guide, well, a fisherman who has been roped into being a tour guide, who is explaining the curse of the island in bits and bits as a ghost hunting show, which Rin Chupeco did in The Suffering as well. And I do feel like it's definitely set up to be commentary on the exploitation of other indigenous populations of people by American media. We have a discussion of the gentrification that happens and the destruction of wild habitat when these shows come in to film in these isolated places. Though this place is actually isolated, and we still have a bunch of people coming into this island that nobody lives on to set up shop for a 3-year-long show that they plan on filming. And yeah, it's pretty ridiculous what they're doing in terms of destruction of the habitat, and I'm not surprised, to be honest. So they've discussed paving areas, they've brought in generators, they've flattened areas, they've built cabins, and all of this is happening in an island that is cursed and haunted enough that local people don't want to go there. So yeah, some interesting conversations on how people and places are treated in terms of exploitation for American media, and another commentary on the ridiculousness of those ghost hunter shows. I'm going to start down here. I have some vacuuming to get done down here, and some cardboard to break down, and some things to put away so that I can bring stuff from upstairs down here to put away. So this is all cardboard from a lot of different things that's been sitting here. Those are some of Hugin's toys and some other things that just don't have shelf spaces. And yeah, it just needs some tidying, and some of my plants need watering. Yeah, there's a lot down here that needs to go. So eventually I will get it gone. But I'm going to clean up down here. My sewing desk is a mess. clean up down here, and then move upstairs. So it's going to be a day of cleaning today and listening to audiobooks. Okay, so I'm 2.5 hours in to The Sacrifice. And it has now been revealed that our main character, L1, actually is non-binary. So everyone around was using he, him pronouns when referring to L1, but they just revealed that they don't think of themselves as male or female when another character named Chase asked. So we have like a couple of 18-year-olds essentially who are like forming a friendship, while there's like weird ass haunting shit happening around. So yeah, interesting so far. We're getting more revealed about the curse on the island, and yeah, my place is getting cleaned up. I have just dusted my shelves and rearranged so that my books aren't like mostly haphazardly stacked anymore. So I have this weird obsession with this 1970s amber glass. I call it ugly mustard yellow. So my parents got me some for Christmas and I get to add it to my collection that I have from my grandmother's stash. And I think this is why I like it. So I've got like so much stuff up here. And I put it up here because I don't have a place for it. But I'll show you. My parents found me at a thrift store or an estate sale these, which were labeled as Depression Yellow. So they're a slightly different yellow than the amber. But they're really pretty and they're Depression era. But the sticker said Depression, and I was like, oh, me too, glass, me too. So I just want to show you. So this is some of the stuff I'm still putting away. So I've got like these little serving trays and stuff. So now I've got like a fancy bowl. Watch me break this. Me and glass, we don't necessarily get along. So that's why it's up here and not for everyday use. But yeah, so I get to add more stuff to my stash. So I forgot, I actually have more stuff I gotta put away. This is some faux leather my parents got me. And then my friend got me one of those really cool glass calligraphy pens, so I have to try that out at some point. That needs to go back up on the bookshelf, so I'm gonna have to make room there. And I forgot that I got this from Goodreads. It's just been sitting on my table. So it's on my list to read, but I won it in a like giveaway, so I gotta put that on the shelf. This is gonna be my reading journal. So maybe this weekend, if I get a chance to set some of it up, which hopefully I will, at least January, I'll show you what I'm going to do. So maybe that'll be tonight. Man, when am I going to read? And then my boyfriend's sister wasn't sure what to get me, so she got me a book, and she got me this, which is a very pretty book. I didn't plan on ever reading it, but if someone gave it to me, I'll read it. Not super special under the thing, but the end pages are pretty. The end papers, we got the map on the end papers. So I've heard mixed things about this, but I've never read a Cassandra Clare book. So I got this to also give a try. So I gotta rearrange this shelf again to try to fit more stuff up there. So we'll see what I can do. Okay, it's like 3 hours later. I am nearly done with this book. I've just been cleaning and listening, and it's I feel like almost everything that I could say is going to be a spoiler, but I'm trying to like, essentially, the island is literally cursed, and we get like a survival story with like haunted trees and visions, and it's intense. It's basically been a bunch of shitty dudes getting what's coming to them, and like, good for her, like her being the island. And yeah, it's just been a bunch of like really shitty dudes getting attacked in by trees, basically. That's like the easiest way to like not spoil it. So I'm done cleaning my downstairs. I have the dog's bed in the wash. I have the robot going. It's 6 o'clock. I'm starving. So I'm going to call it a day on the cleaning. I was hoping to do all 3 levels, but I literally did not realize how much needed to be done on the main floor. So like I swept all the corners and everything so that the robot could get everything. I like deep cleaned the counters, like moved everything and cleaned under them, and ordered the, the fridge filter, and I ordered some stuff for organizing my counters, and because we don't have like a pantry, and so like my spices, like some of my spices sit by the stove, the ones I use all the time, and my other spices are a mess, and my pots and pans, there's not enough storage for them. This place is great, but it's storage light, and yeah, so I did all of that, and that took me a long time. And trying to like, I kept coming upstairs to like put stuff in the laundry room and like towels and stuff that need, like hand towels that needed to be washed. And I was like, oh, but I need to do this up here, I need to do that up here. And like trying to not do that was like the hardest thing, because every time I walked into a room, I was like, oh, but that needs to be done. Okay, I've finished my errands. I finished my book. I enjoyed it. I really liked the twist at the end. I wasn't expecting where it was going, but maybe that's because I was doing a lot of other things while I was listening. I don't know if I had been paying a little bit more closer attention. Maybe I would have. We're gonna wait till it settles. There's the flop. Okay. Maybe I would have guessed it sooner, but I did like it. It was YA, so I mean, there's that. Because the dialogue was a little weird for me, but I can forgive it with it being YA. It was, yeah, I just enjoyed. I loved watching all of these horrible people get what they deserve, for the most part. So, Hukin, do you need to go potty? Yeah? Can you go downstairs? There you go. Its tail swish. Okay, so ignore my spider plants taking a bath. Gonna make my favorite cocktail, my currently favorite one. This is a new insulated tumbler I bought. It's just wet because I just washed it, because you should always wash things before you use them. So Screwball, peanut butter whiskey, and cherry Dr. Pepper. And this is way better than it sounds. Trust me. I love this stuff, and I was just trying to figure out like what to mix it with. Incidentally, it's really good with, oh God, hot buttered rum batter. If you use this instead of the hot buttered rum, it's actually, or the rum in a hot buttered rum, it's actually really, really good. So I recommend it. But yeah, so I'm just putting a little bit of this, can of this, and then we're gonna go upstairs. I'm at a point where like shit is actually finally happening. This book is a lot of build up, a lot of world building, which from my experience with this author, with Rin Chupeco, this is pretty common for them. For things to go kind of slow, especially considering there's going to be a sequel to this book. It's heavy on the horror elements. I'm going to give you a brief synopsis. We're following Remy Pendergast, who is the son of a duke and is also a vampire hunter, which in this world we call a reaper. Remy is not liked by his fellow reapers because they all believe him to be a cambion or a dhampir, which is a half vampire. His mother was killed shortly before he was born, and she was killed while in the presence of a court of vampires. So it's still unknown of whether or not she was turned before he was born, or if she was kidnapped and was there as a source of food. He had to be born via C-section from the Reapers who found his mother's body. So he started life pretty traumatic. His dad is a piece of shit and hates him but loves him. Like, his dad is just an abusive father who raised him to be a hunter like his dad. And we get a reveal of like something that happened in Remy's youth. We get a lot of things like slowly revealed about Remy's youth. He's stubborn. He views things very black and white, which gets frustrating for me sometimes because I'm like, we don't know you enough to understand why your morals are so, this is good and this is bad and there is nothing in between. And we still don't really, I'm near the end and we still don't really understand why his life is that way. So he ends up meeting these two vampires who are the head of the third and fourth court of vampires. I'm not sure exactly how many courts there are because Chupeco does this thing where they will call a court the first court and then they'll call them the night court. And it took me until like page 200 to realize this was the same court. And they do that when they're talking about people too. They'll constantly change descriptions. They did this a lot in The Bone Witch, where it's like, it'll, instead of just using the person's name, they'll say like, the old woman said, and then the next time it's that person's name. And I'm like, can we just call them by their name? Because I'm getting confused on who we're talking about when we constantly jump back and forth. Regardless of that, I do like the stories they tell. I think just some of their writing is very confusing for me at certain times, and I'm like, and I it could just be a cultural thing, because Rin Chupeco is Filipino and lives in the Philippines, I believe. Lives in the Philippines. So it could just be a cultural writing style. Not 100% sure on that. So that's like my one complaint with like this book, and like with the Bone Witch trilogy that I read, and I just finished The Sacrifice, and that is also has some of that as well. So yeah, so the third and fourth court head, one of them is a woman called Xiaodan, and the other is a man called Zidan. And so Remy ends up traveling with them and in order to investigate this murder that he was being blamed for, and also this infection that's happening in the vampires. So this is a world where everyone knows vampires exist, and they're essentially just like a different political entity that exists in the same countries. So we have a treaty with the third and the fourth court and Illyria, which is the country that Remy is from. And it's very political, which is part of why I like it. So we have that happening. And this becomes it says so in like the synopsis, it becomes like a polyamorous relationship. But Remy is very slow on the uptake on that, and I get the way that it was being done, like why it was like a person who is not polyamorous in the beginning kind of ending up that way, and being against it for the morals that they had been raised with, but then like it working for them in the long run. But he's just so like adamantly rude about it and dumb about what they're talking about that I'm just like, he's like purposefully, blatantly oblivious, and it gets a little frustrating. He is only like 23 or 24, so, which is interesting. Xiaodan is actually only 40 in like human years because of her backstory, but Zidan is like over 900. He's like the oldest fucking vampire. Anyway, so they're trying to uncover the mystery of this infection that is happening in newly turned vampires, or people who have been killed by vampires. It's like an extra infection that makes them nearly invincible. So that was my long synopsis. But yeah, so I'm at the point where like shit is going down, so I can't really say a whole lot because it's like all of the reveals are happening and all of the like violence is coming to a head. I will say this is like horror heavy, and someone said the smut was like really, really explicit, but having read Fourth Wing, the smut is not that explicit. It's like, what is it? It's like you have like closed door and then you have like a sheer curtain or something like that. It's like you're seeing what's happening, but it's not very detailed. It's very R-rated movie, I guess, rather than like straight up erotica. So it's not enough to make me feel uncomfortable reading it, which I do get a little uncomfortable with certain types of things. So it's not super explicit, but it is adult. So there's that. But yeah, I'm gonna get as far as I can. I've got 65 pages left. Slow reader. I fucking knew this reveal was gonna happen. Fucking knew it. Okay. The neighbor's dogs are barking. My dog's chewing on a greenie. But I finished this last night, and I thought I would check in. I'm gonna be short because I talked for a long time last night. So
I gave it like a 3.75. It is not bad. The world building is great. My issues with it are two things. Pacing. The pacing goes slow than fast and slow than fast. And then the main character, if he spends the entire book being down on himself, I'm not good enough, but then also being arrogant over how good he is at his chosen job. So he's like, I'm not a good person, I don't deserve anything to be nice, but I'm the best reaper. Like, okay, but it doesn't matter how many times his friends tell him, you are good enough for us. He's still convinced that they're going to just, like, leave him. And this is over the course of maybe 2 months. So I get it that people don't grow that fast, but in a book, it's nicer to not have the character doing that consistently. And in the end, we finally think we're about to get some growth, and he reverts back. And it just drove me a little bit nuts. I just can't. Honestly. Also, Zidane, so it's confusing because Remy calls him Zidane the whole time, but that's his last name. His first name is Malik. Anyway, so yeah, I am going to start A Court of Wanderers today. I have it on an e-arc from NetGalley. So I'm going to start that today and hope that Remy gets some character development, because I didn't really like him, but I liked all the other characters. I really liked Elk, is one of Remy's good friends. She is a vampire that is posing as a human. Zidane and Xiaodan are great. I love them. It's just Remy's an annoying emo kid, coming from a former annoying emo kid. Damn. It is raining so badly. Okay, so I got 15% into Court of Wanderers, and I'm taking a quick trip to the grocery store. We're continuing straight up from, like, immediately after the events that ended the first book. And there's, like, some things that are, like, kind of sort of suddenly resolved, and some things that are still dragging on. Like, without spoilers, the best I can do is that, like, Remy is still convinced that Malek does not like him, and Malek is still convinced that, like, Remy is going to randomly, like, decide he doesn't like him. And I'm like, y'all have been fucking for, like, 3 weeks. Why are we still doing this? Like, genuinely. I know, like, Malek is, like, almost 1,000 years old. His behavior is not going to change. But for him to just, like, keep assuming when he's supposed to be really good about reading people's, like, body language and shit, I'm just like... So the whole, like, romance side of it is, like, driving me a little crazy. But I feel like that's just a theme with romance. Like, I'm not expecting it to do anything for me, because it doesn't. I like the world that Chupeco has built. I love the politics of it. It's just this, like, romance aspect is stressing me out. Because I'm like, you guys are being really dumb. Why are you all acting like children? Like, Remy is 23. I get it. But you guys are old as shit. Like, Xiaodan is 40, okay? I'm almost 40. Like, she is the most mature one of the group, to be fair. She is the most mature one of the group. Fucking Malek Zidane, he's like almost 1,000 years old. Why are you acting like a child? Just running into the store and back, I got absolutely soaked. And on the way, I was like, oh, I've got chlorine from the library, I'll start it. And then I started it, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot this is, like, mermaid kinda. Like, and I'm gonna save it for mermaid. So I stopped it, and I decided I had some short stories from the Into Shadows collection from Audible, and I think I'm just gonna I'm gonna listen to all of those. There's only like 7 of them, and they're only like a half an hour a piece. On 2.5 speed, they're like 15-20 minutes a piece. So I think those are the ones I'm gonna listen to this weekend and see if I can finish that collection. Because it's like dark darker fantasy, and Tamsin Muir has a short story in it, and Alex E. Harrow. So I've been wanting to try the Alex E. Harrow one, the six Deaths of the Saint. Everyone says is really, really good. So I've started with The Garden, and it's weird, and I like it. Cleaning my bathroom. Finished The Garden, which is the first one. The rhythm was off for me. It was like part poetry, part like lyrical prose, and it just didn't work for me, but it was a decent conversation about like mother-daughter relationships and finding your place, I think, and like making like bold decisions. That was interesting, but it was like a 3, so I'm gonna listen to the next one. Still cleaning the bathroom. I'm like taking everything out of my drawers and like wiping all the dust out of them, and that level of cleaning. So now it's echoey in here because I took like everything out. So I finished Persephone by Lev Grossman is the second one. I've never read anything from this author before. Same with the author of the previous one whose name I can't remember at the moment. This one is like kids with powers. Not quite sure why the name Persephone, but that's like the main character's name. Interesting premise. The pacing was better. I think it was about like a 3.5. Wasn't anything super special, but it's pretty good. So on to the next one. This is what the good dog is doing while I'm cleaning. This bed is like the best investment I've ever made. It's like his favorite thing. It makes him super sleepy. I've moved on to cleaning my blinds because I've been wanting to do it for months. Even offered to pay my sister to do it because I hate doing it. I just finished The 6 Deaths of the Saint by Alex E. Harrow. Amazing 5-star short story. It's told mostly in second person, which is, it was just giving me like Harrow vibes, and the way that the story was unfolding and what was going on, and it was just constant, like such fast-paced breakneck speed of just a really good story. Definitely recommend that. One of the top like short stories I read this year. So just watched the first season of Castelvania because I'd never seen it, and when you open up Court of Wanderers, it says for fans of Castlevania. So I asked my boyfriend, and he was like, I love it. I will happily watch the first season at least with you, and if you like it, we can watch more. I can kind of see the inspiration, but for people who said that like the books are just straight fanfic, I don't see that. I can see the inspiration. Remy has a lot of behaviors dialogue wise of Belmont, but and like the trio, you know, to defeat the big evil, but the whole plot line is extremely different, considering we don't have like religious overtones and that type of thing in Silver Under Nightfall. So I can see the inspiration for the characters, but not for the plot. And also the characters are like mixed together and blended and then peeled back apart to make new characters. It's just elements of each. So take that as you will. Good morning or afternoon. It's first check-in though. I got to like 33% last night before I just couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. And so stuff is kind of finally starting to happen. It's been a slow journey. There has been more like romance type plot stuff, more escalation of the relationship than there has been like escalation of the rest of the plot. So we're finally getting some of that. So I think this is going to be a quicker read, considering how far I got that quickly. There is dialogue tags this time, and in the previous book there wasn't most of the time. Like, I don't remember dialogue tags. So I'm hoping that they keep the dialogue tags, because since this is an arc, things can change. But for the most part, I think it's a good continuation of the story. So I'm gonna feed the dog some breakfast and read a little bit more, and then figure out what we're doing for New Year's Eve tonight. Spent way too much time doing this today, but I've got this set up, I think, in a way that I'm happy with. Real simple. I used to do a bunch of drawings. I'm just not going to do that. So I've got pixels. I'm doing this reading challenge. I'm going to put a series tracker here as I start reading them. This will be the Discworld books, plan on reading. Book releases, I'm going to fill them in as I find out. I've got a few I need to fill in, but I'm not going to worry about filling in. These are things that can be filled in as the month goes on. This is the yearly section, by the way. Diverse reading tracker, types of diversity is just going to have color-coded box after each book so that I can not have to write like rows of this like I have in my Excel sheet. Auto reading challenge, we're going to do another one this year. We're trying to figure out what we're going to do. And then this will be the monthly section. So I've got the stats that I'm going to be keeping. The Jan Archiwary books, I'm going to print them out, glue them in with double-sided tape. Books that I purchased. Pages read. I added these pages in after I put the trackers in. This will be books that I'm going to add to the TBR that month, because I'm curious about where I find them. Minutes read. This will be for audiobooks, and then we'll have the actual books read, and then these pages will be the reading journal as I get the books filled in, and then we'll start February. I don't know how many pages I'm going to need for each book, so I'm not going to fill anything in until then. So that has been done while I've been listening to audiobooks. So I've got one to finish, and I'll check in. Happy New Year and end of the vlog. I finished Court of Wanderers about an hour ago. Here comes the dog. I just realized I walked down the stairs. Overall, I think it struggled a little bit from pacing. We had lots of like info dumpy politics things, which was fine, except for that we didn't need it all. Like, I love it, but we didn't need it for the ending to make sense. The ending made sense all on its own with the little bits that we'd already learned from the first book, and some we could have done with like a third. Okay, had to break for tacos. So finished Court of Wanderers. The pacing was kind of weird, like I was saying, because there's a lot of political conversations that happen and about how the courts of the vampires work, which I enjoyed, but it really drug the pacing down. And then we would have like a battle scene and like a bunch of blood and gore and then we would have a sex scene, and then we would have politics. It was odd. But I liked the story overall. I can't really say too much about it because it's a sequel. But we got some good character growth out of Remy. The things that were bothering me in the beginning that I mentioned, he kind of outgrew and overcame as he got more comfortable in his relationship. And the one thing that kind of brought it down for me is I felt like we spent more time with Shaudan and Malek in the first book than we did in this one. And they kind of fell to the background a little bit, and I wanted to see a little bit more of them, I think. I did like seeing more of Elk. I really like her. And overall, I enjoyed the horror elements of the story a lot, and putting them in this fantasy, Middle Ages type setting with like vampires and just like an acceptance on polyamory and sexualities, and it was just kind of, it was nice to have that. The plot just kept like revealing twists and then stuff, so once it got going, that last like 150 pages or so just kind of flew by because the pacing stayed, which was nice, except for like there was like 10 pages here and there where it kind of slowed, but overall it was pretty good. I finished that Into Darkness short story series. The last couple were, I don't even remember their names because they were okay. I just really liked that Tamsin Muir one, Undercover, because the twist reveal in it was like, yeah. There was one by Nevo, that was called What the Dead Know. That one was good. Yeah, so I recommend that. Nice little fun way to end the year. So that's my final thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this. The dog's upstairs whining because he doesn't know where I went, even though I told him I was going downstairs and he watched me walk down the stairs. So, I'm gonna go. Take care of the dog. I'll be back later this week.